My dear students, I welcome you all to this new video lesson in the e-learning series for the subject of computer science, class 11th. In the previous video lesson, we have discussed one type of flow control statements, that those were conditional statements. Now in this video lesson, we will be discussing the next type, that is iterative statements. Okay. You have already seen that there are three types of program in Python. One is sequential, another is conditional, and the third category is iterative. So in this video lesson, we will be discussing the statements that will help you to write programs that can solve the problems that have iterative blocks inside them. Okay. So let us see what are the course contents that we will be covering. We will first be covering the necessity of loops, that is the iterative statements. Then we will see range function. Then we will cover for loop and while loop. Then we will check jump statements in Python. Then we will have a look on loop else statement. Then we will cover addition and multiplication series. After that, we will have a look on nested loops. Then we will have some solved examples, and at the end you will be getting some practice programs. Okay, so to begin with, let us see what is a necessity for repetition of tasks. So there are many situations where we need to repeat same set of tasks again and again, like making rotis at home. Okay, so the process of making a chapati or roti is same, and you have to repeat that process again and again. Okay, so if you are at your home and your mom is making rotis for you, then you can see that the same process of making a chapati is being repeated again and again. So this repetition is called iteration or loop. But these situations do have some hidden things in them, like number of times to repeat the task. Okay, so there will be a fixed number of rotis that will be made, okay, depending upon the size of your family. So your mom will be knowing that how many rotis she has to make to feed everyone. Okay, so the number of times that particular process has to be repeated is fixed. So Python provides two types of looping statements. First one is called while, second one is for. The while loop is conditional loop, whereas the for loop is counting loop. Okay, so the while loop depends upon a particular condition, whereas the for loop depends upon the counting, the number of times. So before moving towards the loops, first we will have to check the function called range. This function will be used with for loop. Okay, so the range function is specially used in for loop. It generates a list, which is a special sequence type. You have studied a bit about lists when we have discussed about data types in Python. So the output of the range function is a list of numbers or elements. So a sequence in Python is a succession of values bound together by a single name. This you also have heard about in those lessons where we have discussed the data types, that a sequence means a collection of values bound together and referenced by a single name. Now let us see the syntax of range function. So the range function has two types. So first type of it is range, and you will provide two integer values. First one will be the lower limit, second one will be the upper limit. Okay, so from which number you have to start the range and up to which number you have to go, those two integers you have to provide in this range function. Clear? So if we suppose that L is the lower limit and U is the upper limit, then the output of the range function L comma U will be a list having numbers from L, L plus 1, L plus 2 dot 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 up to upper limit minus 1, that is U minus 1. This point you have to keep in mind, that whenever you are working with range function, the upper limit is not touched. That means you will go up to the last number will be upper limit minus 1. That means one number less than the upper limit. So you will not touch the upper limit. Or you can say that the upper limit value is excluded. Okay. So you will start with the lower limit value and you will start adding 1, 2, 3 like this, and you will go up to the upper limit minus 1. Clear? So the lowest number in your range, the list that has been that will be produced will be the L, that is lower limit, and the highest number will be U minus 1, where U is the upper limit. For example, if you write range 10, 20, so the lowest number will be of your list will be 10 and the highest will be 19. So what will be the complete list? It will be 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Okay. So the upper limit, that is 20, that will not be touched. This point you have to remember because it is very important while using range function. So the second type of range function is where you give the third argument, that is called the step value. So range lower limit, comma upper limit, comma step. Step means the difference between the two values. Okay. So here step is the gap between the successive number of the list produced. Okay. If you give the step value 2, then every second number will be in the list. So if you write range 10, 20, 2. So the first number will be 10, then be 12, then 14 and so on. Clear? Some important points related to range function is that if the value of lower limit is not provided, it is considered as 0. So you have a special third type of range function in which only one number will be provided, that is range, and in the brackets you will be providing a number. Suppose you write range, in brackets you write 10. Okay. So the lowest value will start with 0 and go up to the highest number minus 1. Okay. And because you have not provided the lower limit and the step value, so the default step value will also be 1. Okay. So there are three cases of range function. Range function with 1 argument, range function with 2 argument, range function with 3 argument. So if you look at these three variants, you will find out that the upper limit must be provided while dealing with a range function. Because if you are not providing the lower limit, it will be considered as 0. If you are not providing the step value, it will be considered as 1. But you have to provide the upper limit. Okay. And if you provide a negative step value, the list that will be generated, that you will get in decreasing order. Okay. So the negative step value means you will be getting the list in decreasing order. Clear? So this was an overlook of range function. When we will be doing the practical examples, this thing will be more clear to you. Now we are aware about the use of range function, so we can get to the first loop in Python, that is for loop. So the iteration statements allow a set of instructions to be performed repeatedly until a certain condition is fulfilled. So when you are working with a loop, you must be knowing about some features of it, so that you can identify that which program will be done using loop. So what are the properties of a loop? in a loop you must have a lower limit from where you will start, and you will have an upper limit where you will end. You will have some task to perform, and you will have to either increment or decrement yourself. Let us suppose a condition: you are in front of a staircase and you have to go to the top of that staircase. So you have to start at the step number 1. And suppose there are 100 steps in that staircase, so you have to go to the step number 100. So 1 is your lower limit, 100 is your upper limit. And now what you can do is, either you can go up step 1 by 1, or you can cover 2 steps in a go. So it depends upon you. So there are 4 things in a loop. First thing is the lower limit from where you will start yourself. Second thing is upper limit, the highest value that you will reach. The third thing is the body, means the steps that you will execute. And the fourth thing is the updation of value, either you will go up or you will come down. Okay, so if you are at the top of the staircase, then you will have to come down. So what will be the starting value? That will be 100. And what will be the ending value? That will be 1. And you will decrement yourself by 1 or 2. If you are covering 1 step at a time, then you will decrement by 1. If you want to cover 2 steps at a time, then you will decrement by 2. Okay, so in loops, you have to execute a particular task given number of times. Clear? So these 4 things are in a particular loop. So if your question has these 4 things and a particular task is to be repeated again and again, that means that question will be done using loops. Then you have to decide whether you will do it with for loop or while loop. Okay, if it is a condition based question, then you will go for while loop. It is a number based question or iteration, then you will go for loop. So the for loop in Python is designed to process the items of any sequence. What are the sequence? Like string or list, one by one. Okay, so let us see the syntax of for loop. So in for loop you will write for, then you will have a loop variable. Okay, then you will have that operator in that you have studied in the video lesson on operators. Then you will have a sequence. Okay, this loop variable will iterate in this sequence of values, and for each value these statements that will follow will be executed. Okay, please note that there is a colon sign because for is a compound statement, and after this colon there will be indentation, 4 spaces. So let us see an example. For a in, this is a list 1, 2, 3, 4, colon, after pressing enter there will be 4 spaces as indentation. Then you have to print a, and then you have to print a square, a into a. So these 2 lines that follow for loop will be called the body of the loop, because they are at the same indentation level. This is the loop variable a, because each loop has a loop variable that moves from the lower limit to upper limit. So this a will move inside this sequence. First the value of a will be 1, then you will print 1 and 1 into 1, that is 1. Then you will again move here, the value of a will become 2. You again come to the body, you will print 2, and then you will print 2 into 2, that is 4. Then you will go up, still the sequence has some pending values. The next value will be 3, then you will print 3 and 3 into 3, that is 9. Again this value of a will become 4, you will print 4 and 16. Now again you go up and you find that all the values of this sequence has been occupied, has been iterated. So your loop will end. Okay, so this is the example of a for loop. So in for loop you have a loop variable, you can have any name, then you have in, then you have a sequence. So in place of this sequence you can also have range function, because the range function also gives a list as sequence. Okay, so the actual syntax of for loop is for loop variable, in operator, then a sequence. It can be a sequence given by you, or it can be sequence generated by using range function. Okay, so in this for loop, the loop variable is assigned the first value in the sequence at the beginning. Then the statements following the loop are executed with the assigned value of loop variable. Clear? Now the loop variable is assigned the next value in the sequence and the loop body is executed again. This process will continue until all the values in the sequence are processed. Okay? And the last point that we have already discussed, that you can have a given sequence in this for loop, or you can use range function to generate a sequence for you. Okay, so the syntax of for loop is clear, and the use of for loop should also be clear, that when you have a given set of values to iterate, if you want to process a given set of values, then you will use for loop, because this for loop is number based loop, counting based loop. Okay. Now let us see the second loop, the while loop. While loop is a conditional loop that will repeat the instruction within itself as long as a given condition remains true. As soon as the condition becomes false, the loop will terminate. So the syntax of while loop will be while is a keyword, followed by a logical expression or condition. Similarly, you have also studied this type of logical expression in if. Okay, so the same type of condition will be given here. So while followed by the condition, then colon, because it is a compound statement, then after it indentation of 4 spaces, and then statements to be executed as a part of while loop. Okay, so this is the syntax of while loop. Okay, while loop is a conditional loop, so you have to give a condition, and the body that will follow that while loop will be executed till the condition is true. As soon as the condition becomes false, the while loop will terminate. Okay, so the loop iterates while the logical expression evaluates to true. When the result becomes false, the program control moves to the line after the loop body. Let us see an example. Here you have a variable that is called loop variable, and you have given its value as 5. Now you apply while loop and you put a condition that a should be greater than 0. Clear? Then you put colon and then you write print a, and then you decrement the values of a by 1. Okay, as you are aware that each loop has 4 parts. First part is initial value, that is this 5. Second part is ending value, that is the condition part. This is, it should be greater than 0. Third part is the body that is to be executed, which is this statement. And the fourth one is a increment or decrement, that is we call modification, that is this line. Okay, all the 4 lines are present in this loop. So the value of a will start with 5 and it will be decremented at each step and print the value of that a at each step. And you will process this statement until your value becomes 0. Okay, so what will happen? The first value of a will be 5. Okay, so you will check, is 5 greater than 0? Yes, condition is true, so you will print 5. Then the value of 5 will be decremented by 1, a will become 4. Then you will go up and you will check, 4 is greater than 0? Yes, you will print the value 4. Again a becomes 3. You go up and check, 3 is greater than 0? Yes, you will print 3. Now again a becomes 2. You go up, check, 2 is greater than 0? Yes, print 2. A becomes 1. Again go up, 1 greater than 0? Yes, print 1. A becomes 0. Then you go up again and you check, 0 greater than 0? No, 0 is not greater than 0. 0 is equal to 0. So this condition becomes false and you will move to the statement followed by this while. That means this statement will be executed. Print loop over. Okay. So these two lines will be the part of the while loop. That is the body of loop. Why? Because these two have the same indentation level. Because this line, print statement, has the same indentation level as of while, so it is not a part of while loop. Okay, it is a part of main program. So whenever the condition becomes false, your loop will terminate and your control will get to this statement for execution. Clear? The working of for loop is clear to you? So in each loop you have 4 things: initial value, final value, modification of values either positive or negative, and the body to be executed. Okay, so while looking at the while loop, you find that the anatomy of while loop is you have initialization expression that is called lower limit, and you have it before entering the loop. Okay, so before entering the loop, its loop variable must be given an initial value, its first value from where it will start. Initial value. I have told you that the first thing in a loop will be initial value. Okay, so the initialization expression in while loop is outside the loop body, that is before the loop starts. Then you will have a conditional expression that will be the upper limit. Okay, so the truth value of test expression decides whether the loop body will be executed or not. If the test expression, that is a condition, gives you the answer true, the loop body will be executed. If it is false, then the loop will be terminated. As in while loop, the test expression is evaluated before entering a loop. So this while loop is called entry controlled loop. Okay, because the entry depends upon the condition. So the body of the loop will only be executed when the condition is true. If it is false, it will not be executed. Third point in a loop was body of the loop. The statements that are to be executed on successful execution of condition are called the body of the loop. And these statements will be indented at the same level because those are the part of that while loop. And the last thing, the fourth one that you have in a loop is update expression, that is increment or decrement. So who will be incremented or decremented? The loop variable will be incremented or decremented. So the entire functionality of the loop depends upon the loop variable. The loop variable is given the initial value. The loop variable is checked for the upper limit. Okay, the body of the loop is executed, and the change of value is also done on the loop variable. So the loop variable is very important because it will make the loop run. Okay, suppose you have to take 4 rounds of a ground, then you will have to count it, that you have taken 1 round, then after second round you will count that I have completed 2 rounds, then 3, then 4. Now your mind will indicate you that you have completed 4 rounds. Okay, so your mind is maintaining a variable, that is a loop variable, okay, whose initial value is 0. When you complete first round, it becomes 1. When you complete second round, it becomes 2. When you complete third round, it becomes 3. When you complete fourth round, it becomes 4. Okay, so that's how the loop variable changes. Okay, so these 4 things must be there in a particular loop. Then we have 2 jump statements in Python. Python offers 2 jump statements to be used within loops to jump out of the iterations. These statements are, the first one is break and the second one is continue. The break statement enables a program to skip over a part of program code. This statement terminates the very loop it lies within. Okay. So the break statement terminates the execution of the loop in which it is lying. Execution resumes at the statement immediately following the body of the terminated loop. Okay, after the loop termination, the lines following that loop will be executed. The lines inside the loop body will not be executed. The break statement is used with an if condition. Okay, so you break with a particular condition on it. If you encounter that condition, then only you will break out of the loop. Okay, so this is an example of break statement. Then with while you will have a test condition followed by a colon. There will be some statements, and after that there will be a condition to be checked. If the condition is true, then depending upon this condition you will break out. Okay, suppose you are taking rounds of a ground and your health deteriorates, then you break out of that, the process of taking rounds of the ground. Okay, so it is a particular condition when you break out. Okay, for example, you are playing in a match of cricket. If you get hurt by the ball, then you break out of that ground, then you are called retired hurt. Okay, so this is a special condition where you have to break out. So this break will be used with if. If this condition is true, is the condition occurs, you will break out. So after breaking out, you will not execute the following statements in the while. You will just go out of the loop, and the statements after the loop will be executed. Please note that the statements indented after while are the statements of the while body. These are the statements inside while body. This statement is not a part of while because it is having the same indentation level as of the while. Okay, so this will not be the part of while. Who will be the part of while body? These statements that are having same indentation level, those are indented after while, will be the body of the loop. So these statements are the body of loop, and the statements at the end, it is not the part of loop. So when you encounter break, you will just come out of this entire loop and you will come to these statements. Similarly in for, you will write for a variable in sequence. Then you have some statements, a condition to break out. If it is the condition is true, you will break out of the loop and come out, and the statements following the loop will be executed. The statements remaining in the loop will not be executed. Okay, so break statement is used to come out of the loop. Next statement is continue. So the break statement comes out, it breaks the working of loop. Okay, it terminates the loop, premature termination. But instead of forcing termination of loop, the continue statement forces the next iteration of the loop to take place. It will not come out, it will go to the next value of loop variable. It will not come out. Okay, the continue statement skips the rest of the loop statements followed by it and cause the next iteration to take place. With the use of continue statement, loop moves to the next value of loop variable. Okay. Similar to the break statement, continue statement is also used with an if statement. Let us see the example. Here, while the condition, then some statements, then followed by a particular condition, then you write continue. So, continue will not go out of the loop, it will go to the next iteration, means next value of the loop variable. What will happen? These statements following the continue will be skipped and you will move to the next value of loop variable. Okay, you will not break out, you will move to the next iteration. Similarly, in for, if you find a condition and you write continue, so it will go to the next iteration of the loop. Clear? So this is the difference between break and continue. Break will terminate the execution of loop, while the continue statement will terminate the current execution of iteration and it will move to the next iteration. Okay. Suppose you are moving in a loop from 1 to 10, and if you check that the number, if it is fully divisible by 3, you should break out. Okay, then you will write if I mod 3 equal to 0, break. Then what are the values that will be printed? Only 1 and 2 will be printed. But if you write if I mod 3 equal to 0, continue, what will happen? The loop will not terminate, it will continue its execution. So what will be the values? Those will be printed. We will print 1, then 2, 3 will not be printed, then 4, then 5, 6 will not be printed, then 7, then 8, 9 will not be printed, and the last value will be 10. Okay, so this is the difference between continue and break. Okay, so the break statement is used to do premature termination of the loop. Now we have loop else statement. Both loops in Python have an optional else clause, which is different from the else clause of if else statement. This point is very important. The else portion of the loop executes only when the loop ends normally. Please note, when the loop ends normally, not abnormally or premature. Okay, there are two ways to come out of a running loop. First one is by using a break statement, that is called premature termination. Another is when you complete all the iteration of loop variable, you have to come out because the loop has completed itself. That termination is called normal termination. So if the loop encounters a premature termination using break statement, the else part of the loop will not be executed. Okay. So the else clause of the loop appears at the same indentation level as that of the keyword while or for. Okay. So you see this syntax: while, condition, some statements, and else at the same indentation level of while. So if this while loop will terminate properly, normally, then only these statements will be executed. If you use a break statement inside this while, then this else part will not be executed. This you have to understand. Okay. If the loop is terminating properly, then only this else statements will be executed, else block will be executed, otherwise not. Similarly in for, you have some statements and then you have else at the same indentation level of for. So when you come out of this for loop normally, then this part will be executed, otherwise not. I think it is clear to you. The use will be clear when you write some programs using this else block. Students, let us conclude our discussion up to this loop else part, because if we'll take it further, it will be a long video. So the remaining portion of this chapter will be discussed in the next video lesson. Okay, see you there.